Hey everyone, this is Dr. Craig with AI, and I'm here with Jessica from Ink and Integrity. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you
Thanks for
for
doing this.
having me.
Oh, delighted to have you here. And I was really interested seeing your website, Ink and Integrity, and reading your profile on LinkedIn and the things that you're doing with technology and ethically as well. So why don't you tell us your backstory, your origin story?
So, I am a long-term educator. I've been involved in STEM education for between 15 and 20 years now. And I made a transition and founded Ink and Integrity about a year and a half ago, and really started working on curriculum and content creation for schools and online schools. So kind of made a transition out of the classroom and kind of into more of a support role for schools.
Okay. And how are you working with schools? Is it large, long-term professional development, or share with us?
Well, I have been involved in a lot of different things actually, in writing online courses and supporting professional development and helping online schools write brand new curriculum, textbooks, online articles, you kind of name it, and it's been there, but it's led me to another really big transition in my career at this point.
Hmm. I saw
So
that you
I
studied ethical education, ethical technology. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so when I started kind of in the private space of working with schools and consulting and writing content, AI ultimately hit, and it became quite a ruckus within schools. But what I realized at the time was that there's a massive disconnect between technology that's available, um, understanding of the technology. And unfortunately, that of course has led to a fair amount of fear for educators on how to implement AI within their school. And really and truly, are they even allowed to? And if they're allowed to, what are they allowed to use
Mm.
with students? To what degree? If they're generating images, do we need to cite that? Does this need to be accounted for? And that led me into a really big spiral of learning all about ethical emerging technologies.
Wow. And what does that mean?
So, really and truly, I will spend my time now. I am co-founded a second company called Bright Minds AI, and we are focused on developing policy that's tailored to schools. And so, ethically for educators, it really just means that they'll be able to align their pedagogical practices with their classroom practices and their tools. And currently, they're with the disconnect, it's difficult for them to feel confident to be able to do that. So, in explaining the ways that we can use AI, what the output is, where data is stored, and what that means for students is the big focus on the ethical side of the AI.
For teachers that are just dipping their toe into AI and maybe producing a lesson plan with a productivity tool online, generative AI, what do you think they could consider? Maybe there's two or three things they could do in that process to think, how do I do this ethically and how can I keep my kids safe, respect the data, keep myself safe as an educator?
No personal information, please. It's a very big misconception on entering any kind of personal information when using generative AI. But with the teachers that I've spoken with the teachers that I've worked with, the biggest first step is just log on and try. There is a perception that it can produce anything, that everything is going to be correct. And that's not always true. So the fear that's there can be really mitigated by just going on and saying, "Tell me everything about this particular topic." And we have scientists and we have prompt engineers that are really, really good and these massive prompts that are pages long. And I think that's a misconception that people believe, we'll just go in, pop this thing in, and it's going to automatically return to me something that's perfect. Um, However, it is an amazing tool on time saving. So you really can get a great outline and a great start for things. The second thing would be definitely like get some new ideas. It's a great place to go and generate new ideas and ask for creative ideas. What would be a
Mm,
new way I could do this? And get some great things. And my personal favorite is image generation.
mm,
Um, and I think that that's also holds a lot of potential for students. I, for one, am not artistically inclined. So it is really nice for me to be able to generate an image that represents what's in my mind because my hands do not do that very well.
right, very good. I was wondering about your website, Ink and Integrity. Where does the name come from?
So I feel that everything we decide to write down needs to be followed through with integrity. That especially when you are talking about
Mm,
working with students, that you need to say what you mean and mean what you say. And part of that is if you're willing to put that into writing, if it's going to be in ink, then it needs to be followed with some form of integrity. I've spent a lot of years focused on building empathy in classrooms and done, I don't know how many hours, a lot of hours on helping other teachers kind of work on strategies to implement empathy in a classroom and how to approach that. And integrity comes with that statement in and of itself that you need to have a sense of ownership in what you're offering other people.
mm, yeah. And so for teachers that are new to AI and they might do some image generation or get some creative ideas, like you've said, um, do you have some particular platforms apart from simple old chat GPT that you would recommend?
I do actually. There is one website called GenCraft, GEN Craft.
Mm,
You can generate roughly 10 images a day on tokens and they'll reset the next day. And it's fairly good. I use Midjourney, which is now Mira, but that was where I really, when I decided to actually really start working on creating things that came from my mind into the actual image, I went to Midjourney. But GenCraft is super easy. It's fairly consistent. You will get less two-handed, three-handed, multiple images into one. It's a little bit more accurate, a little more consistent. But when I first started generating images, I would get things back like, wow, okay, that is actually nothing like I had in my mind. So I don't know what I did wrong. And it did take some learning on my part for the image generation to do things like if I say in front of, I am literally going to get in front of.
mm,
And that was one of the times that I really started thinking about what an amazing teaching tool, especially for our kids that are coming in that are English as a second language, because AI tends to be so literal. So if you
mm,
are saying in front of something, it is a very good representation of literally in front of. I wanted to generate a picture of my dog in front of a table. It was a dog. It was in front of the table in midair, but still in front of the table. So there was, there's some really great implications on ways to use this for teaching. I went and tried it myself for if I'm really feeling upset about something. I went to Chat GPT and said, how could I express this to an adult in a responsible way
mm,
that they can hear me and my reasoning for why I'm upset. And actually, it's a very good tool to use in that way
Mm,
and giving not just necessarily students, but people another way to express themselves when they're struggling for the words.
mm. I've not considered doing that before, how to express
It's an
emotions, and that's brilliant, brilliant. Brilliant for younger students to do that. Younger meaning 7 or 8, and thinking of
yeah.
different ways of expressing how they're feeling. Fantastic. Okay, so you said Gen Craft is good. Any
Mhm.
other ideas for good platforms for teachers to dip their toes into?
The for the images, I would say GenCraft, at least on privacy and kind of data usage, would be my first go-to outside of uh well, now we can use Gemini with image generation,
Mm,
and that would be a fairly reliable source for teachers that are just beginning to dip their toes into AI and generative AI.
mm,
There's some really easy settings to kind of mitigate some of the fears that are there. And just going right to the privacy settings and saying, I don't want you to use my information to train AI, and you can kind of reduce the amount of storage of what you're generating in that way.
mm,
GPT is very clear on how to follow those steps. I also would really encourage teachers to try multiple platforms. You have Chat GPT's talents are much different than Gemini's talents. If I wanted to research something, Perplexity is a great tool.
mm,
Um, that's really easy to use. Gemini is a really great tool to get real time, maybe news articles, things that you can get back to it. You are not going to get the same results with Chat GPT that you would there. However, it's really, really fun on more of the creative side of
mm.
output.
What did you think about the announcements in the last few days from
That's
OpenAI?
been I feel like sometimes that following the world of AI right now is a whole week's worth, maybe a month's worth of events happen in an hour of announcements. It just seems to be flooded with information. And working with schools on writing policy for them to customize things to implement by school. I feel like I'm just kind of a news hawk with things. And so
Yes.
sometimes I'm like, I think maybe I need my own chat to keep up with. I need my own bot to keep up with some of the announcements, but it is kind of a game changer, really.
Mm.
What did you think?
I thought fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought of students who have barriers to learning, such as sight
Mhm.
or hearing, learning behavior. And then I found within an hour there was a video of a blind man was holding up his phone, pointing it at Buckingham Palace, and the AI, OpenAI, the female voice from the original announcement,
Uh-huh.
was telling him that the flag was flying, and he was saying, "Is the king in residence?" And she was saying, "The flag is flying. It's that flag that means the king is in residence." How exciting for you that you were there when the king is there. And her inflection in her voice conveyed not
Mm,
only the knowledge, but the excitement and the enthusiasm to share it with the person who was blind using this to assist. And that's the kind of thing that I thought of straight away when I saw the technology had taken that leap. And it wasn't Chat GPT 5 or 6, it was a
right.
completely different development. So I was pretty happy. I don't have the video function on here. I'm sure it's coming, or I'm sure it will be in our region soon, but certainly the voice was working.
It's just accelerating things. Of course, I started teaching with overhead projectors, so I've seen a lot of different transitions over time. I had a very difficult time giving up those transparencies at
Yeah.
first. Yeah, that was the big transition then. And of course, when I've been in classrooms and told students that I didn't have a cell phone I did actually didn't have one until I was in my 20s. It's like, "Oh, gasp, how old are you?" And I'm like, "Actually not that old." But old
Mm,
enough. There's been a lot of transitions, but this particular one is so fast.
mm,
Um, and that's my big fear for schools right now with a lack of policy in place. It's just exacerbated the fear
mm.
for people to use AI in classrooms. And so it's kind of I've bumped into it's like a all in or we're just banning everything, forget it. Like we're
Right.
not using it. And I kind of have to resist. I'm like, "Oh, well, actually you already are." Just
Yeah.
in case you were wondering, it's already there. So
Mm,
I feel really, like it's very important to get the policy out to schools. So it
mm.
just frees people to start using things like a blind band that can all of a sudden have narration and see things that he wasn't able and experience things that he wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
I think that's the creative part as well for more senior students in high schools or upper
Mhm.
primary, elementary, is to see that video and see the capability and say, what other problems could we solve? And let them actually be the masters of generating ways that it could be used. And encouraging schools, don't invest in hardware, just invest in
Mhm.
training your staff and time for your staff, supporting your staff to give different platforms a try because they change so quickly. Um,
It's
I don't
incredible.
think
Yeah.
investing in hardware is the good decision these days. It's all about teacher time, teacher training, and teacher experimentation, and the freedom to give it a go. And if the platform disappears next week, okay, what did we learn from that? Let's just move on to another one with the capabilities we've developed. Do you find that there's that perspective in the schools that you're working with and the communities you serve?
I do. I think the one thing I've been uh felt really compelled to share with people, especially in the product development stage of this. You might have one school's infrastructure that is completely able and ready to do lots of things with a staff that's not. And you might go right down the street and have the complete opposite. The infrastructure within the building is really lacking, but the people are ready for something to change. So, without there being any kind of divide between those, I think it's really important that we maintain a sense of equity for
Mm,
kind of leveling the playing
mm,
field and making sure that when you're at one location to the next location, that the people who are implementing tools and who are looking to offer that understand that each school is kind of its own little ecosystem
mm,
at this point, and it's important for people to know that that's available. And so we have this really incredible chance to make sure that all of a sudden everybody has really and truly got access to all of the same things because AI can adjust itself a bit faster and more individually with each student. So I think it's just a really incredible opportunity. But that's the
mm,
one thing that's really surprised me from one place to the next is almost the tech side of it not recognizing that it's going to have to be more adjustable like for each different building and each different set of students.
mm. I think people who watch these videos or see me at a conference or doing a staff meeting get sick of me saying that I think that AI is the biggest equity move that we could make as a school, as
I
educational leaders. You know, when we think about disadvantaged communities, and as you just really rightly said, that each individual school is its own ecosystem. The
Mhm.
resources are really different, and the learning. I'm hesitant to say the learning quality, but the learning opportunities are different in
Yes.
every single school, every single community. And if we can raise the game by giving personalized AI tutors to students so that a teacher's available 24 hours a day to them to coach them, guide them, customize the learning experiences for them, wow, we can really raise the
I
game.
think yes, I'm with you, and I really and truly see this as such an opportunity to level the playing field. If it's done well and if it's done correctly, we really
Mm,
can. It is a game changer in equity
mm,
for students across all different disciplines, across different age levels,
mm.
growing up in very different environments because it can adjust. And I hate to see because there is, of course, the fear, one of the very first things that comes out is, well, two things in working with schools. It's going to be used for cheating. I'm like, well, we were actually cheating when I was a kid before computers were in schools, but it was just little tiny slips of paper on
Mm,
people. So cheating's not new. You can deal with that in the same way that you would have dealt with it without a computer. And then, of course, the big fear with lots of people across industries is AI is going to take my job. Also, no. My dad is 84 years old and still tells a story of one of the teachers he had that read them stories when they came in from playing to cool off. I mean, AI can read a story, but it won't be the same memory that people will have with their teachers.
exactly.
So it needs to be embraced as a way to allow teachers to do what they really want to do, which is teach kids.
Yes. We're going to reduce the administration time, make sure it's really targeted, reflects the values, there's cohesion with the different lessons that are being generated across the school. Then teachers can focus on being with kids and applying the knowledge and being creative. I have that memory just like your dad. I'm not 80, but I have that memory of coming in after playtime, lunchtime, the long break time,
Mhm.
coming in, sitting down, and the teacher was reading Prince Caspian. Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe, Prince Caspian. And so there was, because we had open plan teaching at that stage when I was a boy. And so we
Uh-huh.
had three teachers in a big block with many kids. And so after lunch, the one teacher would read this for maybe half an hour. And if we got fidgety, it would stop, but it would go longer. And I think the teachers really liked that break because the other two teachers were catching up on doing attendance or their marking
Mhm.
or whatever. It was just brilliant. It was brilliant. We all got to be together. We have these shared memories. I think that shared memories is really powerful for students and that sense of cohesion and routines because some families have chaos, some home lives are chaos. So the
Yeah,
routines of school, beautiful. The relationships of school, beautiful. If we can use AI to make that happen more, wonderful.
I agree with you completely.
So, what's the best way, Jessica, for people to reach out to you, engage your services?
Probably my LinkedIn page basically has access to everything there. You can get to my website. I'm totally open to connecting. DM, I'm pretty regular. I post almost daily on LinkedIn and I post articles and all of the things that are happening in my world go there. So LinkedIn is probably best for me.
Fantastic. I'll make sure that link is with the show notes with this video, wherever it is. So, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.